So thank you all for being here. My name is Majida. I'm the program coordinator here at ikahi Mediation Center. So before we get started, can everybody hear me okay and see? You have your visuals going on? Perfect. Great. So if you cannot see or hear, then that means you may have to adjust your audio and visual. Sometimes you may have to pop in and pop out, so feel free to do that. We'll just let you back into the room if you need to pop out for a moment. So if you also can rename yourself, I see most of you have done it, but just in case, if you can also rename yourself to something that you'd like to be called, that way we know who's in the room with all of us here. And if you have any trouble renaming yourself or adjusting your video or sound, you may have to poke around for a little bit, but if you're still having trouble, you can always just send me a message in the chat box with your name, and I can change that for you. So we'd like to see your lovely live faces, so please do turn on your video, but it's also understandable if you prefer not to, so that's fine. Either is fine. I'm also admitting people as we're all coming on, so there's more people coming into the room. So as you come into the room, you're automatically muted, but you can unmute yourself, and there will be opportunities for you to, to participate and to chat. So Christy will kind of prompt you when that happens. So about our organizations, ikahi Mediation Center, we are a nonprofit community mediation center. We serve East Hawaii. We were founded in 1983 as a program of the YMCA. And then in 2006, we became our own independent nonprofit. So what we do here is we empower people to come together, to talk, to listen, to explore options, and to find their own best solutions. So to achieve this mission, we offer mediations, facilitations, and trainings, just like this one, to strengthen the ability of diverse individuals and groups to resolve interpersonal conflicts and community issues. So this brown bag talk occurs every third Thursday. We are now having it online via Zoom. We used to do it at the Office of the Prosecuting Attorney, but changing times has caused us to adapt. So we're adapting, which is great because now we have people from all over the place joining us. From Honolulu, a lady said she was from Alaska. So for those of you who are coming from different places besides the Big Island, thank you so much for being here. That's really exciting. And for those who live here as well, we really appreciate you being here and joining us on our brown bag talk. And so this happens every third Thursday. And we have a different speaker and a different topic all around the theme of finding solutions, growing peace. So if you really like this one, please do come and join us again at another time in the future months. So what we're gonna do you'll have an opportunity to give your feedback in an evaluation. We really appreciate those that you completing that evaluation. So towards the end of the talk, I'll pop in a link in the chat box. So if you could just click on the link and it'll pop up for you, and then complete the survey. It's really quick. It's like maybe 5 or 6 questions, but it really helps us know how we're doing. It gives Christina feedback as well. We share those results with her as well. Is give us different ideas, more ideas about who should be our next speaker, and more topics. So and it also helps us for our grant funding as well, because this is grant funded. So this is that grant funding allows this to be free and open to the public. So if you just click on that survey at the end that I'll pop into the chat room or the chat then we'll appreciate if you fill that out. I'll also send it in an email and a link as well, because I believe Christina is going to share her PowerPoint. So you'll get a copy of that as well. Speaking of Christina, Christina Harper, she is the owner of Try Communication, which provides coaching services in the area of relationships and communication. She graduated with a BA in communications from the University of Hawaii at Hilo, and utilizes her degree in community mentoring and marital coaching. She hopes to bring a well-rounded perspective for maintaining healthy connections. And Christy is also one of our professionally trained mediators here at ikahi Mediation Center. Welcome, Christy.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you everyone for taking the time to be here. And, you know, everybody almost was pushed into this situation here as far as, you know, being in a predicament where we are now learning and working remotely. And so welcome to a topic that I think really affects everyone. So let's see. Okay, I'm going to share my screen. Here we go. Okay, so yes, I wanted to address a topic that I felt is really at the forefront of everybody's life right now, which is when you have to merge all these different roles into one roof. So where you used to be able to go to work and kind of leave things at, you know, kind of like leave it there. And now we have to bring that into the home. Same for students who used to, you know, be able to go to school in a building, and now they're doing it from home. And so this is a topic about, you know, what happens where we're used to relaxing and kind of having a place to get away from all those different things now becomes where we need to know how to communicate in the home. And so let me just kind of tell you a little bit before we get going. So like Majida said, this is getting recorded because I had a lot of teachers and a lot of working parents who could not join us at this time of day. It is noon here in Hawaii. And so I did ask ikahi to record this so that we can send it out. And so you'll probably get an email after this presentation with a link on how to view that. And you're welcome to share that with anybody who you felt like could benefit from it. Also, there will be a bright yellow boxes, which might have questions or stuff. And so please, you know, I've been in so many webinars and Zoom conferences, and I don't know if all of you have too, but they can be kind of, I should have a better word, but I don't, but they're boring. And so I like to really try to be as interactive as possible through the chat. And so please, you know, put in your LOLs if you find something funny, put in your questions if you you know, want a very, if you have a very particular question about that material I'm going over. Please feel free to put all of that in, and Majida is going to kind of be watching the chats, and she will help me navigate, you know, who's asking questions and what's going on. But I know that if you've been on any amount of Zooms in the past couple of months, I mean, you got to make them as fun as possible. The last portion of this, there will be a Q&A. And so if you do have specific questions, maybe that didn't go over, then I will try to do my best to give you a concise answer, but it might not be a full answer for what is your particular situation. But I do want to take Q&A at the end. So please feel free to either put that in the chat box or, you know, raise your hand and I'll get to you. But there'll be a slide coming up so you'll know when Q&A starts. This is our little family here. This is my little family, I should say. And the dog is everyone's emotional support dog right now. He used to just be mine, but now he belongs to everybody. My vision statement for my company, Try Communication, is really to equip and empower people to have healthy communication in their homes and in their personal lives, their work lives, and everything like that. Because I think this is the best time. 2020 has invited us to start having conversations that we either have not had time for or we have avoided. And this is the perfect environment for those conversations to start being had. So Majida already said, I have my bachelor's degree in communication. I'm a professional mediator. I do youth mentorship, and I do one-on-one coaching. And so that's my background. I am going to start a timer because I have time issues sometimes, so I'm going to go start that. Okay. So here's my life in visuals. We have now decided that coffee is appropriate for our 10 and 13-year-old because everybody here apparently needs coffee. And my son, who's 13, has decided. I try to go with decaf, but at this point, why? And then also we have deemed that pajamas are an official business attire. So I have done speaking where I'm in pajama bottoms in the bottom and the top is professional. My children have shown up, unfortunately, sometimes in their pajamas to their classes. Sometimes they just sleep in their clothes to get up, go to school. I guess it's just too much effort, but they have now become official school uniforms. This is also what's happened. I thought that when we thought, oh, we're all going to work and do school remotely, that it would look like this top, like it would be organized and there'd be Post-it notes and everybody would be in their space. And what's actually happened is the bottom portion where everyone is kicking everything to the side and just trying to create a space for what looks appropriate in a computer monitor. So my question is there any, down here below, you'll see my son, we also have to use our office. It's multiple things. It's an exercise room. It's also a dojo a couple of times a week. And so I'm just curious in the chat, if there's parts of your home that you've had to repurpose for an office or a school area or a place to escape, all of those things. So I'm just interested. I'm going to stop sharing just because I want to see what you guys are doing in the chats here. But just put in there, where have you set up your working space now? My teenager zooms from our outside deck. Oh, that's a great spot. Oh, man. Yeah. Some of you are Zooming and doing school from air-conditioned places. If you're in Hawaii, that is not necessarily true for all of us. So all of you doing it from air-conditioned spots, I personally envy you, and I wish that was also our scenario. Yes, getting outdoors, trying to not be confined to four walls is a great way of doing school and work remotely. Okay, let's get back here. Oh yeah, okay, I see him coming in. The office seems so far. The dining room table works. Yeah, definitely. Okay, so I'm gonna get back here to where we're at and share. Okay. So yeah, there's a lot of spaces that were designated one thing and have become something else. And I think that a lot of people are having to do that. And so how can we do that successfully is really the question. Okay, so this talk is going to cover 3 areas. It's going to cover work, it's going to cover school, and then it's going to cover family. And that's separate from work and school. And that's important to note that they can all kind of get blended together right now, but there is a separation for work, for school, and then for the family unit or the relationships. If you don't have children at home, still relevant because you have work and then you have the relationship at home, and how do we designate separate space and time for those? Okay, there is something that really I wanted to address right from the get-go, which is a thing called, there's an article written, it's called Zoom fatigue. And there's been multiple of these topics addressed, but the overwhelming notion is that people are getting tech fatigued. And that is because we are used to taking our cues from each other face to face. And usually if you're talking to someone, you're not just dead on staring at them. Like right now I'm staring at Majida. So we're not just looking at each other and having to decipher all of these, like, you know, what do they mean? And I can't see their arms and I can't see what's happening around them. And if they're looking away, is it because someone's, you know, in the room? And because we can't decipher that, our brain is actually working harder to pick up on social cues that we have naturally done on a subconscious level. And most of the time we're not talking to each other like necessarily in a dead stare with each other. We sit next to each other or catty corner from each other. You might be distracted with someone else in a meeting. And so the idea that our brain is having to do two things. First of all, it's having to pick up social cues from the person on that screen with only their facial expressions. Second thing, you're seeing yourself on Zoom or Google Chat or whatever platform you're using, Skype or whatever, you see yourself. And when you see yourself, then it's very hard because your brain is now, you're actually looking at yourself and trying to process, what do I look like? And do I have anything in my teeth? And what's on my shirt? And so your brain is actually trying to communicate two social cues at the same time, and it's extremely fatiguing on the brain to do that. Let's see. Okay. I think we have, I'm going to unmute Pono because he's one, we have some students joining us and I definitely want them to have a voice. So Pono, I think I saw your hand raised, but I don't know if it's for me or your teacher. So
no, that was nothing. I don't know. Like, oh, I forgot what I was gonna say. Oh yeah, sports. That's why people who play like sports in the youth, they're like having such a hard time adjusting because like they're normally taking cues from their coaches when they're playing.
Right.
And I'm more exhausted when I come home now. Like when I'm home, after I get off done, I'm usually sleeping for 30 minutes and I go straight to practice, which is like down the block for me. So it's like you come home more exhausted.
Yeah, that's a great point, Pono. Thank you for sharing that. It really is fatiguing on everyone involved, for sure. So in the chat box, I'm just interested if any of you are feeling mentally fatigued by the use of technology right now. Just yes or no. Not everybody uses maybe technology at the same consumption as someone else. And interesting enough, what we're also talking about is we are using social media more, which I didn't even know was possible, to be honest. But we are using social media more to stay in the loop of what's happening. We're watching the news on our phone more. We are doing Zooms and chats and Skypes on our phone more. And so all of that is tech fatigue. And the interesting thing is that we all love social media. We already had a slight problem moving in our country where there might have been a slight phone addiction appearing, but now actually they're seeing a decrease because people are so disgusted with having to use all this technology, which once was an option, now is a requirement for our daily lives. And so people don't, even in my home, my husband's he doesn't want the TV on at night because it's just so much sensory overload for him. So here I'm going to put some suggestions. These are suggestions that cover all areas, whether you're working from home, whether you are a parent, your student is at home, whether this is a family issue. These are 4 things that affect everyone in the home. And so I think it's really important to address them because you might find some resolution in these 4 topics alone. And so the first one is called emotional contagion. And emotional contagion is not necessarily something new, but it is basically, in layman terms, this is when one person's emotions and behaviors directly trigger similar emotions or behaviors in someone else. So basically what we're saying is feelings are contagious, emotions are contagious. And we have to recognize this in everybody in the house, because you used to get up, and if you kind of got up in a sour mood, you could just grab your coffee and drive to work, and maybe it'd wear off by the time you got to work. Now you get up in a sour mood, get your coffee, and you're staring at your spouse wondering, did I get poor sleep because of them? Or what happened? So now that emotional contagion is there, and we need to realize also in our youth that they do not get up always in the best of moods either. I don't know if anybody has teenagers at home like I do, but I know that if I, as an adult, cannot always wrestle my emotions and get them in line and in order, I absolutely do not expect the teenagers in my house to be able to do it either. They're going to have bad days. They're going to have days they just feel blah. They don't want to sit in front of a computer screen that day. They are, they're confused. They're grieving. They're sad because they're not having that physical connection with their friends and teachers and coaches and everything that they usually have. And we are all feeling that. We are all feeling that on some level every day. And so we have to remember that our emotions are contagious, and that can be true, especially if you're working from the home. And I'll give you an example. I used to, when we first started, my husband first started working at home, I could not tell if he was mad, I guess, or upset about the noise of me and the kids, or if it was work related. And so in those first few weeks, it was kind of like, man, I'm sorry, you got to be here. And so then I started feeling some kind of way about it. And so we actually ended up having to have a conversation. And what we concluded was, I need him to verbally let me know, like, hey, it's a work thing. It's not you guys. Because then we all can take a breath and understand, oh, that's something that's happening with his work and not something that's happening with us in the home. And so emotional contagion has to be taken seriously. And we need to be able to recognize that in the home, and know that just as negative emotions can kind of come to the surface and be contagious, so can joy, so can excitement, so can, feeling like we can do this, we can be successful. Those emotions are contagious as well. And that's the environment we're really wanting to go to. The second thing that all of us can benefit in the house from doing is the keep to your schedule. And this can be challenging. I want to see how best to address this. Can be really challenging. So sitting down, especially as workers, and deciding when you're going to work, as much as possible, try to sit down and know what your work schedule is for the day. Whether you're a student, whether you are working remotely at home, make a schedule. And I'll tell you why this is so important, besides just keeping your day kind of structured. When you make a schedule, your family knows when to interact with you and when you're unavailable. But if your schedule is chopped up throughout the day because, I'll do this later, or, I'm burnt, I want to take a break, I want to do this tonight. When your family thinks they can interact with you, and then they come to approach you, hey, you want to watch a movie? And you're like, no, I got to get this done. I didn't get it done earlier today. Then it's hard for them to decipher in their mind, like, that you're not putting them off. And you want to keep your schedule because you want to keep that promise to yourself to say, I only work from this time to this time. And so keeping your schedule is conveying a message to your family of when you're available to interact, when you're available to address any needs or have conversations about anything that's not related to your work. So try to get your kids to keep schedule. I know that it can be really challenging. We have working parents and who are working outside of the home. And so it is really hard for them to make their kids keep their schedule. So keep your schedule. If you're going to run school from 8 to 2 or 9 to 2, whatever that is, keep your schedule. Because if you chop your schedule up and the kids are doing school, sometimes in the morning, sometimes till 10:30 at night, it just makes the day so long, and you start the day one way, you finish the day the same way, and it just seems to just melt into each other. And there feels like it's even more overwhelming because it doesn't feel like there's a break in the day where I'm not working and doing school. So try to create a schedule that works best. Third thing, create a routine for transitioning. This is important because you're actually training your brain in a habit, which is every day I do these things in order to let my mind know I am no longer doing school. I am no longer doing work. And so, for instance, for my children doing school, every time they're finished with school that day, I make them wipe off their desk where they're doing school. I make them power off their computer, not just close it down, but power off their computer, wipe down their area, put all their stuff back up, because I want their brain to know they're done. And the more that you do this habit, the more you will be able to communicate. Your brain will start communicating to you, okay, when this is done, then I don't think about it. And that's really important because not all of us have dedicated offices or dedicated desks. Some of us are working at dining room tables, on the couch, in our bedrooms. And so we need a way for our mind to know it's the end of this day for work or school. The last thing is that can be really useful is everybody's going to have to be fluid, okay? Be flexible. And so you're going to want to reanalyze your situation about every month. About every month, sit down and say, what's working? What's not working? Or what's coming up next month that is different that I need to kind of readjust the way I'm doing it? There is not a one all be all. Not everybody is, what did they say? Everybody's on the same ocean, but not in the same boat. And that's important to know because there's not a solution that works for everybody. You have to get creative and you have to be flexible and you have to kind of go with the times and learn like every month, how's this going to look for us? And it's not that you're breaking routine, it's just you're being flexible. And so those are 4 things that I really believe it's going to help with the peacefulness in the house and communicating the right messages to everybody. Okay. So we are going to get into communication tips for working remotely. Let me make sure I didn't miss a slide. No, I didn't. Okay. So communication tips for working remotely. OMG, we have learned so much that my husband has transitioned to home, working from home. And then I had just started a business. And so now I'm working from home. And how is that working out for us? So here's some tips about working from home. Okay, once again, if you can create a designated workspace, that is going to be best. Now, I know that may not always be a dedicated work room, but if you can say, this is where I'm going to work from. And once again, it's not fixed in stone. Of course, you can have days where you're like, okay, I'm going to work from a different space. But as much as possible, have a place that you work from. If it's the dining room table, let it be the dining room table. If it's a desk in the living room, like our children have, let it be the desk in the living room. But whatever it is, it's dedicated for just that. And when you're finished for the day, you shut down everything, you don't come back to it. I know that's hard to do if you're working from a dining room table, but try as best as possible to find some way to separate that in your mind. So trying to do that. One of the things that you want to really avoid is doing work or school from your bedroom. The brain is confused because this is an area that it's supposed to relax and sleep, but now it's a place where productivity is supposed to be happening. And so there's an article that was just talking about, making an effort that your bedroom stays a quiet space, a space where your brain knows it can sleep and rejuvenate, and doing your best to not work in a bedroom, doing your best to stand up during working. And this is so huge because unfortunately, like the schools, if you're in a school building, you sit down at your desk and you work. and you're in the class, and then you get up 5 minutes later, you go to your next class, you're back in the room. So what I'm encouraging is that find a space where you're at home, and then let your teachers know, if it's a teacher, let whoever know, like, I got to stand up. Okay. And since we're on Zoom, we can just elevate our computers or move things around, but find a place to stand up and kind of get your blood flowing, and try not to sit all day. There are a few things about communication and working remotely that I don't think has been explored enough. And that is the digital communication part. So companies were already, some companies, I should say, were already transitioning to doing a like a video chat or a Skype program in the offices. So you could just Skype your mates. And so because of that, that was already in progress. Here's the thing about digital communication. Digital communication, you can email or text informational context. But what digital communication, as far as emailing, texting, is not good for is conveying intentions and expectations. Okay, so I'm going to say this again because it's so important. If you're going to be working remotely, you need to know sometimes email or texting does not convey intentions and expectations, because it's very hard to read someone's tone or body language in that information. So if you need to send out informational context about projects, about schedules, then that's fine. But trying to say, oh, hey, what's going on? How come this is late? How, I was thinking that this should have been done at this time. Texting and emailing really is a poor form of conveying or receiving intentions and expectations. We're going to have to do the Zoom call. We're going to have to do a phone call if we want to convey intentions and expectations. We can't always read the tone or the body language in our digital communication, in our texting and emails. So this is causing, what I'm seeing is from a couple of companies, is they're having a lot of problems where people are working remotely, but they're not having a unity between their coworkers. There's not a connection between their coworkers. And it's because a lot of them have just stopped. They don't have coffee breaks anymore. They're not passing each other in the office. They're not being able to pop in and just ask a question about something. And because of that, people are not necessarily putting forth the effort to ask the questions they need to be asking. And so if an employee has a problem or needs a flexible schedule or needs to maybe they need an hour and a half off because they have to do this with their child, instead of conveying those messages, they're just not logging on. And so that leaves an employer not understanding what is happening with this employee. How come they're not on? And so we are going to have the conversation over the phone. We're going to have the Zoom call so that we can make sure that we're conveying the right tone and intention to what we're asking. I know a lot of employers are being as flexible as possible, but they cannot meet your family's needs if they don't know what they are. And so after you've been working at home for a while and you can clearly see this schedule's not working for me, or I need flexibility, or I need to be able to work on Saturday so I can be off these days with my kids on their school, then that's a conversation we need to have with our employers. I don't know if every employer is going to be able to accommodate that. But having the conversation lets your employer know what is your situation. And more often than not, I have seen in the last 6 months, employers are being as flexible as they possibly can. So please, I encourage you, have the conversation, let them know what is going on around you. The last thing I want to do is just briefly tell you that ikahi, when we do mediations, we were trained to do mediations on Zoom. And some of the helpful tips that we have learned is to check your mic, check your camera, look at your space, see if your lighting's okay. If you're on a Zoom call or a Zoom meeting, anything that's video, somehow put a note in your area or let the people in your house know that you are on a visual platform. This happened to me when I thought that the door to my husband's office closed because the wind shut it. So just getting up, I was probably just in a t-shirt, and I thought I would open this door to let the air come through. But see, he shut the door because he was on a visual platform with his people. So that's the incidences we want to avoid having when you accidentally step into someone's space and you did not know they were on a visual platform. Can anybody relate to that? Like, has anybody had any problem stepping into people's visual space unexpectedly? So if you're on it, let us know. I tell my son, please, like, I'm not paying attention. I could be back there playing with the dog and your teacher is finding me very distracting. So like, let me know if you can see me in your visual space. I often tell both my sons, like, let me know, because I don't want to look, ridiculous. Me and dad don't want to get in the argument in the kitchen if your classmates can just watch us and then ad lib what we're saying. So just help us out, son. That's what we're asking. Okay, here we go. Communication tips for virtual learning, distance learning. So this is my child. And like I said, when I said have a designated space, I know this might look like it's all over the place, and that's because it is. Because, sometimes those who teach can't do. But here's traditionally on a full day schedule, he sits at a desk. When he's on his Wednesday call, which is I think he only does school for 2 hours, and he asks to sit on the couch and he's drinking coffee. Like, I was not kidding. We have moved to coffee as acceptable for our children. And then for homework, he likes to sit at the dining room table, and which I like too, because once again, it separates him from school. Here's my tips for school. And I hope once again that you understand that everything has to be done by what is unique in your house. Okay. So one of the things that I'm learning from the youth, from high schoolers and middle schoolers, is they want to have a say in how their day looks. So invite them into the conversation, okay? But don't have the conversation all day long. Like, you can't wake up asking them if they got stuff done. They can't go to bed with you asking them if they got stuff done. It is, to them, it seems like a full 12 hours of nagging. They don't maybe understand fully it's our privileged responsibility, but that is what it is for us to be engaged with their education. So I like to set down designated times that I will talk to my children about their school, and I won't talk to my children about their school. I don't talk to them on their Friday nights. I don't usually talk to them on their Saturdays or their Sunday afternoons. If I address anything, it may be Sunday evening when I'm like, hey, are you ready for the week? Did you get those assignments done? Where are you at on that? I believe in natural consequences. So if you fail your class, that's on you, not on me. And if you want me to help you pass your class, then I will find ways to check in with you and make sure you're staying on top of your work or whatever it is that you need to do. But find out what consequences are reasonable. And so you don't want to just take gaming away. I know this sounds crazy if this is any issue in your house, which is video gaming. So I don't want to just take video gaming away as a consequence of school, because they're unrelated to a certain degree. I want the consequence of school to be, oh, I see that you're really having a hard time getting your work done. This week, we're not going to have the television on so that you can find time to do that. But I don't take gaming away, because gaming is not necessarily related to his school. So if that makes sense. So find ways that you can kind of come up with consequences, and ask your student, ask your child. I know it sounds crazy to ask them what consequences they would like, because it would like to be zero. They really have come up with very creative. I'm gonna be honest, sometimes they're harsher on themselves than I would be. I wouldn't be that harsh. Like, you didn't do this, so how much gaming do you think you should get? And in my head, I'm thinking like, okay, I'm going to take off 2 hours. And their head like, fine, I won't do gaming tomorrow. And I'm like, oh, brutal. Okay. But I'm not going to tell them that. I'm going to be like, okay, thank you. That's a great consequence. So invite them into the conversation when it comes to their virtual learning, and let them have a say in what works best for them. And I know that's really hard. I know it's really hard, parents, because you want your kids to, you know, to kind of be an 8 to 2 school. But like, I have a younger son, he just comes alive at night. And so I am letting him do some of his independent work at night because his brain operates in that way. So I want to work what's best for him. And so once again, creating a dedicated space, avoiding the bedroom if possible, so that their brain can have a place to disconnect when they go to their bedroom, and they have a place where it's not school related and their brain knows they can relax and get sleep. So those are my tips for communication and virtual learning. And the last one that we have, looking at the time. Yes. The last one we have is communication tips for bolstering good family relationships. Okay. Relationship in the family. I want to encourage everyone to sit down and do a weekly schedule with, if it's just you, if it's just you and a spouse, if it's just you and your family, whoever it is, do a weekly schedule. It doesn't have to be extremely detailed unless you are just the organizing guru, but do some kind of family schedule. Do something that invites everybody in to have a voice. And that also allows you to plan for something different, something good happening over time, that we're not all just going to sit around and we all just have to think about, you know, school and work. One of the things I find is so important is that we make sure our home is just not responsibility oriented, but also relationally oriented. And I don't want my children to think the only conversations we can have are about chores and school and how much I dislike video gaming, right? So I want there to be a relational aspect that has no responsibility. I want to talk about going outside and hanging out and what can we do this weekend that's different from last weekend, and all of those things. So do a weekly schedule as a family. It takes our family about 30 minutes, and my husband and I are not putting everything on there, just things like if we're going to be outside the house, we might put, hey, I've got an appointment here or there, whatever. And let your kids have a say in what the schedule looks like. It might be like, hey, this night we're going to go out to eat once this week. Ask your kids, hey, what night do you guys want to go out to eat? We're going to go to the beach. Which day do you, well, right now nobody's going to the beach in Hawaii, but when we can, which day do we want to do that? And so invite them in to have a voice. When your youth have a voice, I promise things go smoother in the house, because their voice also means that they have to have a responsibility that if they don't follow through with those things they say, then they broke their word. We're not punishing them. They broke their word. They broke their commitment or their responsibility. So give them a voice as much as possible to make them feel like they have a say. Define parental roles during work hours. This is, man, this is so important. I'm just trying to hold on just a second. I'm going to backtrack that. So I'm going to stop sharing my screen because I can't see in your faces, and I'm curious here okay. So what I want to say is the parental roles are really difficult right now when or if a parent is home and the kids are going to school. In the beginning months of this, I can honestly say my husband and I argued about, well, how much should he input while he's working? If he hears something going on, should he come in and say something? What is my role? What should I say? And there was actually, just disagreements between us because we had not defined what did I need from him during his working time at home. Like, do I want him to come discipline the kids? Do I want him to do this or do that? Is he expecting me to have certain roles and responsibilities? So we had to sit down and find what were going to be our parental roles during this time, because we both work from home. So how does that work? And so for our family, what we landed on is that because he's an early riser, that he would get the kids up in the morning. And even when school was happening, he would take the kids to school a couple of times a week. So, his role is that he wakes the kids up in the morning. as much as possible, he tries to eat lunch with them during the week, or he may take them to lunch, like go to McDonald's and come back. He may take them to lunch during the week. I will not ask him, we will not have discussions about the kids until after he's off work. And then we will have a conversation about what happened that day or what needs to be addressed. And then he'll address it. For me, I needed him to know that because I do coaching one-on-one and I do have this business, that I needed him to know I have to be out of the house. And so that's where the schedule comes in to say, okay, I have to be out of the house. So these days you need to be responsible for making sure they're on their classes and doing what they're needing to do. So define your parental roles and do this from, start now. If you haven't done it, start now, because otherwise it just causes small arguments throughout the day because we don't know what we're supposed to be doing, because now one or both parents are home. So what are my parental roles? If I'm a single parent, I would suggest, if you're a single parent at home, let your kids know, when I'm working, I cannot address issues of, can I give you more gaming? I cannot address issues of, if your brother said you were a fill in the blank. I can't address those right now because I'm working. And so I let them know, hey, write a list. I don't care. Make up something. Put it on a list. Put it on a Post-it note. I don't know. But come to me after I'm off work. And I will let you know, because on the board will tell you what time I get off work. And so you're defining your role to your children if you're a single parent. Have the conversation about what that expectation is, okay? So I'm going to go back to sharing my screen here. Go out, try to get out. I love seeing that in the chats, you guys were getting out, you're working outside, you're finding other places to get out into nature. So go out for a meal, go out for a walk, do recess with your kids. Like, they have recess in their day. So do something, go walk the dog, or go walk down the road, or go outside and sit. If you're in a place where you can go outside and sit, find some way to get out. Otherwise we'll become lethargic in our mind, and we won't, before you know it, it'll be 6-7 days before you left your house. So try to get out, do movement, get the blood flowing. It will just mentally be better for you if you do that. And then the other thing I want you to maybe consider is to invite each other into your successes. And so what does that look like? That looks like saying, hey, I tell my sons, guys, I really have to get this webinar presentation put together. I just need 2 hours of silence. Can you guys help me do that so I can do this? And then when they do it, afterwards, we high five and I say, thank you. Oh my goodness, I got 4 slides done. I appreciate that so much, right? If they're working on something at school and I can tell they're kind of having a moment of then I may walk over there and say, hey, can I get you a snack? Can I get you guys something to drink? Are you okay? And so when they're off, we high five again. I'm like, man, you guys made it through that. Good for you. Good for you. Not every day's great, but not every day's bad. And so invite each other into your successes, because when you're succeeding as a family, it creates that emotional contagion where we all feel connected. We all feel like our success is dependent, that we're all moving forward. And let's see, I think, yeah, as much as possible, everybody wants to feel connected and unified in their house, and we do that by sharing our successes. And I really do believe that. So I'm going to kind of go into the chats for a minute, because this is where we're going to be kind of doing Q&A. And so I don't know if we saw, Majida, did you see any questions or anything?
I saw some really good comments that people were sharing. So
yeah, I'm reading. Let me see. I'm trying to read through real quickly. So this is where you guys, if you have any questions, if you want to ask something very specific or particular, that's for your situation, please. If you want to verbally ask it, just unmute yourself And if you'd rather just type it, feel free to type that question in. I see, if you see some of the comments of the students, like it's so good. Like what they're saying is like, I hate when my parents don't ask me about some things, right? So believe it or not, the youth are wanting the conversation. They really do. And I can't say they won't be sassy about it. I really can't. I can't say I won't be sassy about it, but let's get the conversations going and let's find out, how do we invite them into being a part of the solution? Because here's the thing, nobody wants to be a part of a problem, but everybody wants to celebrate being a part of the solution. So ask them, you know, what you can do and how you could do it for them and what that would look like. Because when they start taking responsibility, it also means that they're responsible for whatever those consequences are. So I'm going to go right back. I just have one more thing to share with you guys. Okay, so here's just some information to reach me. I have a website, my email, my IG account, my Facebook account, like it's all there. And let's see, it's 12:51. Majida, did you see any questions, or are we doing pretty good here?
No, we're doing great.
Awesome.
We're doing great.
Awesome. So let's see. I got to go over here and see my chats. Okay. I'm 30. I just moved home with mom and dad for the first time in 7 years. This has been so helpful. Oh, God bless you. Yeah. Mom and dad now have a full-fledged adult. And so deciphering those new rules is going to be harder for mom and dad than probably for Natalie. So, you know, definitely have the conversations. The other thing is now, because I do have a business and I'm very grateful for Kuakahi allowing me to do this topic, because this is a topic that's very obviously near and dear to me. And I specifically like working with people and having conversations that are not being had. So I'm going to put the second thing I'm put up, this last slide, is just to let you know that this is not part of Kuakahi. This is part of my business, Try Communication, that I'll be hosting a webinar again in November. It's going to be 2 Saturdays in a row. And it's really about the conversations that we're not having in the family. And I know these are heavy topics. I mean, you're probably looking at this slide going like, what happened? We just went from peace and solution to what is this? Yes, these are topics that conversations are not being had in the house about it. And most of the time they're not being had because we as individuals don't even know how we feel about it. And most of us grew up in an environment where these conversations were not being had around the dinner table. These were not being spoken about. But I promise these conversations are being had in your home if you have youth. These conversations are being had. They may not be in a conversation form, but they are non-verbally being had. And they are being had in what we're saying we're not going to talk about. And so I just want to give you that information. If there'll be more information coming out on this. And if you're interested in knowing more about it or registering for it when it opens, you can email me at helpcommunicating@gmail.com. I would say that my thing would be that these conversations, based on the maturity of your youth, I would say that if you have a youth that's about 13 and up, they are welcome to be in these conversations. I mean, sometimes you don't want to have I've had so many parents say, can I bring my child to you and can you talk to them about sex? And I'm like, no, man, like, don't you want to be the first voice? And they're like, no, I don't. Could you have a conversation with them? So I would say, depending on what your youth is, their maturity, their knowledge, and I can guarantee they have probably a little bit more knowledge than you wish they had about these topics, that this will be an appropriate webinar for you and your youth if you want them to invite them into watching that. So that is all Try Communication. This is not Kuakahi Mediation Center, but Kuakahi certainly inspires me because they are all about opening the doors of communication between people. And so once again, helpcommunicating@gmail.com if you're interested in knowing more about that series. Okay. All right. So let's see. All right. Thank you, Majida. That's what I got. And I am so stoked. I just stayed under 1 hour. I can't even believe it. I'm so excited.
Perfect. Thank you. And just to clarify again, you'll be sharing your PowerPoint, right? With
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Okay, so I'll send that out to the participants
Mm-hmm.
and in an email. And then as well, I've also put the evaluation link in the chat box. So before you leave, if you could please just click on that link and go ahead and have that pop up and take the survey. It's really short, just to let us know how you know what you got out of it, or if you know, and how, if anything, you want to hear any more. And then, is there any other questions or anything while we have like 4 minutes? Is JoJo?
I'm good.
Okay. Anyone else with their questions?
I want to say something.
Hi, I had a question. Will there be an email evaluation sent to those of us that are on mobile or landline?
Yes. Yes. So
Okay.
if you registered and got the registration link from Eventbrite, then I'll have your email address. But if you got the link from someone else, then I do not have your email address. So
All right, thanks.
yeah, so if you can just send me your email address in the chat box if you haven't, if you didn't receive your link from Eventbrite. If not, I already have your email address and I'll send that to you.
I have a question.
Yeah. Hi, Natalie.
Hello. So I think I've been hearing some people say that they're having difficulty with their partners or with their kids and so on and so forth, just because they're not getting the alone time. And I think that drive to and from work was extremely crucial. And so if you're not on the clock at work, then you're on the clock as a mom or as a dad. I myself don't have to deal with this, but just for there might be a lot of people in here who are dealing with this.
Yes.
I have the luxury to be able to do yoga and meditation, but what do they do?
Yes. Thank you. That is such a great question, because we just had this conversation in our own home between my husband. He was wondering, why is a TV bothering him so much at night? And part of what he was saying was that he realized that time away out of the house, even if it was 20 minutes here and, to go and come back, was a decompression time for him. But when you leave your work and all you do is walk down the hallway, it seems like the noise is just never ending. And so yes, Natalie, I agree. Thank you for bringing that up. We need to find ways to get alone time, but we also, youth need alone time. So like for me, I don't go in my son's bedroom. I'll stand at the door, but I allow that to be their private space. That's not my space. That's their private space. It's where they go to take a moment and to get away from things. But here's the thing. I don't allow my children in my room without permission either, because that's my space. So for us in our home, we have designated our bedrooms as our private space. Now, it doesn't mean like, oh, don't ever come in mom and dad's room. It just means if I'm in there, like at least knock on the door and say, hey, mom, can I come in? But otherwise, that is my private time. Finding time to get out on your own. My husband gets up super early in the morning. My private time comes at night, literally at like 11 o'clock at night, from 11 to midnight. It's just quiet in the house. It's the only time I'm up where it's quiet. That's my space. That's a great point, Natalie. We need to find time to get alone with our own thoughts and take a minute to breathe and just be ourselves. I need time to just be Christina, not a mom, not a wife, not a friend, not a worker, not a business owner. I need time to just be me. And so, yes, please, guys, find that time.
Thank you. I think that is our time for the day. It's so great. Thank you, Christina. You've offered so many good tips. I really appreciate you being here and sharing your time with you. We get to get a little view into your home as well. So thank you. And thank you everyone else for coming in and listening in. And we hope that you got something out of it. Please do take the evaluation. It really does help us. And yeah, feel free to come again next time as well. So thank you.
Great. Thank you guys. Thank you so much.